Yeah, he was. Well, everybody was Prefontaine.
Yeah, there was like a 2-year period. It was like 5 Prefontaine movies.
Yeah, that was weird.
Let's not go back there.
Let's get this out, guys, quick.
Let's start talking
Oh wait,
about.
someone else is doing a Prefontaine movie.
Hurry up, let's do it. Said everybody at the same time. Well, let's start talking about something else before we waste all this time on Prefontaine. Hey, everybody, welcome to another CineFix Now Roundtable. You came in right in the middle of it again.
I'm watching us right now.
You can't watch us. You're going to get all up in your head about what the side of your face
All
looks
up
like.
in it.
So this week, one of the interesting things that has happened this week is Diablo Cody got hired to write a Barbie movie.
Yeah.
Which, number one, I wasn't entirely aware there was a Barbie movie.
It's news to me.
Gonna be happening.
I mean, a big screen one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Barbie movie is one of those things that I feel like it's safe to kind of assume is always in development,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
to actually hear it happening is bizarre.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. That is kind of weird. They have a weird like little Netflix one that was on for a while that I totally didn't watch. I don't know anything about. It's weird that came into my head. But yeah, I agree. Totally.
Just by complete accident,
Yeah.
I was
That's
able to
weird.
recall the fact that
I wouldn't have
Barbie movie
assumed
existed.
that you watched it, but then
what?
you were like, but I
What?
totally didn't. Now I'm
Totally did. Listen, they totally didn't spend one episode building like a giant like water slide. Like
Okay,
Phineas
I'm
and
going to stop
Ferb.
you there before it gets
I'm
real
just
weird.
saying that didn't happen.
I mean, the first question is, what the hell is that going to be like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Strange
I think it's a
choice.
really smart choice
Yeah.
for the Barbie franchise because they've taken a lot of heat for being sort of stuck in this idea of the 50s.
Yeah, like math is hard.
Yeah, and there was even that book that they got crucified on where like Barbie makes an app, but then what she does is actually like make sandwiches for the boys while the boys do make the app.
She comes up with the
Man.
ideas and then
Oh, yeah,
gives it
that's
to
right.
the guys who actually make the app.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
just like, I had fun ideas. And like that's like computer science Barbie.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I like the idea that Diablo Cody's doing it because at the very least, it's a swing for the fences. I think that could end up being a really fun train wreck to watch, or it could actually end up being surprisingly good.
It's weird because when you mentioned Diablo Cody, I was just like, oh yeah, her. You know,
She kinda
she's
went
kind
away
of had
for a
one of
while.
those careers where it's just like you just forgot about her.
Yeah.
Well, Juno exploded, and then everybody's like, "Yeah, and she was a stripper. Like,
Yeah.
how cool is that? Let's make her a hero." When like Juno, once you got past the first like 8 minutes of that, just like really weird young person talk that I don't think young people have ever actually spoken. Nobody
No,
on the planet.
those aren't real people.
Those
Yeah.
aren't real people at all. But it was a really interesting sort of adult drama about adult type things, and young adult was the same way too. It's like she's a full grown person, and we're talking about full grown people shit. Then translating that to a Barbie movie, I was just
Right.
like, what the hell are we gonna do with that? At that
Yeah.
point, it's just like she's I guess you could write the same script about a model
Right.
theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if maybe the thinking is that she has this tendency to create really interesting female lead characters, and Barbie is the opposite of what that is. So that they're just hoping she'll be able
Yeah.
to make Barbie interesting.
Well, maybe they'll do like a Legally Blonde thing where she's actually very smart, but she's ditzy, and then like it's her hero's journey to be respected for her amazing intelligence.
In
Also-
spite of the dits.
Exactly. Also, Diablo Cody, I think it also comes down to like, I don't think there's a lot of writers who just as writers are like super, super famous everyone talks about other than like Sorkin, because a lot of writers who are super famous are also directors too.
Right.
And so I think like, she isn't usually that top of mind, but she does have a unique voice. And it'll probably work for Barbie.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of a property that has nothing narratively to offer the way that Barbie does.
Yeah.
Except buying clothes and cars and dream houses.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
And
the
different
story.
careers.
Well, actually,
Yes.
that's,
Many different
that
careers,
makes it
yes.
easy.
That's
actually.
true. Barbie
I mean,
does
second
have
you-
more jobs than a West Indian, and I can say that because I'm West Indian.
Well, good.
Hey.
I'm glad I don't have to beep anything there. So. But it also kind of brings up, and this is a conversation that's kind of been happening for a little while now, but because meanwhile we're getting another Masters of the Universe movie from Sony, and they just tweeted out some artwork of Battle Cat that actually looks pretty rad.
Yeah.
It's a tiger with armor on. Like,
Yeah.
how is that not going to be rad?
Yeah.
That's probably the oldest toy I still have from when I was very young. It was actually made before I was born, so I don't know how I had it. But it is my green battle cat.
You have a battle cat?
I have a
Nice.
battle cat.
Nice.
So
My
I don't
brother
have
had
the
one
armor
too.
anymore, but I still have the green battle cat.
I used to have a Dino Rider, the Triceratops.
Wow.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I didn't.
Where
I
does
never
that
had
stuff go?
I think
Compare
garbage.
mine is still at my mom's house. I think. Like, I have like a whole bucket of GI Joes just sitting at my mom's house. I think.
Oh, what was that lunchbox that you showed me a picture of?
Oh,
that just got lit up?
Silverhawks.
Yeah.
Oh,
my-
Silverhawks, dude! I love
My
Silverhawks.
sister was just cleaning out the garage or something. She's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, you remember this lunchbox?" And I was like, "Yes, I remember that lunchbox."
Do you remember?
Are there
what-
still tapes in it? And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "What tapes are in it? Is it Eddie and the Cruisers Part 2? Is it the soundtrack to Eddie and the Cruisers?" And she's like,
my
"Yeah,
God.
it's still in there." And I was
Oh
like,
my
"Yes."
gosh.
Tapes were
Silverhawks.
what came before CDs. And
And
CDs
kids,
are
a
what came
CD
before
is-
MP3s.
I just gotta say, going back, I remember seeing Silverhawks again as an adult. My favorite part is they're these like metal-covered space guys
Yeah.
or whatever, but one had like a cowboy hat and a guitar.
Right.
All the time,
Yeah.
even in the middle of battle, he had his cowboy hat and guitar.
If memory serves, I believe he played the theme song in the title sequence.
probably did,
And it
yes.
was also in that era of cartoons where the title sequence was like 3.5 minutes
Oh
long.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
It
it's
was like
huge
a
song,
full.
yeah.
And
like-
they gave you like a full exposition backstory
Yeah.
on like what the premise of the
Right.
show was.
really, really friendly to first-time viewers.
Yes.
Every episode.
And I gotta be honest, the bad guy had the best bad guy name ever. Do you remember?
no.
Monstar.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
right.
Monstar. Come on.
That's real
They
good.
stole that in Space Jam. That's the name of
There
the
you
band,
go.
the
Monstars,
Yeah.
Monstars.
No.
Bunch of thieves. that-
Silverhawks did it first.
And since we're clearly in the age of the comic book movie right now,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's sort of we can start looking ahead. At some point, that bubble's going to burst, and like, what else? What other movie age are we going to get? Like our toy property, Hasbro property, board games have kind of come and gone and tried to like. What other ages are we in for?
Well, they're still pushing hard on the video game thing. There's going to be 2 video game movies this year. There's going to be Hitman Agent 47, and there's going to be a Ratchet and Clank animated movie, which I'm psyched about because I love Ratchet and Clank. They're great games, and the same people who do the voices will be doing the voice of the movie. But actually, next year there's like a ton of video game movies coming out.
Come on,
like
Crash
a
Bandicoot.
ton.
Crash
I know, right?
Bandicoot.
I know that was the best, right?
Conquer.
It's funny because I think a lot of people, unless they're really in video games, don't realize that guys who made Crash Bandicoot went on later to make like Uncharted. So they're still making awesome games. But Assassin's Creed is coming out
Right.
next year. That's got like Fassbender in it and Marion Cotillard and Warcraft and Angry Birds and Resident Evil. There's a bunch.
I would
you,
say
you
that-
snuck Angry Birds in there.
Yeah.
And I want to ask.
Here's some good things.
why?
Here's some good things. Pile of
Well, I just wrote all the ones I know are coming out.
Okay,
You can judge
okay.
them individually.
Oh, those are the notes that you brought.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
cool.
I feel like the video game movies aren't necessarily a new thing. They just haven't become an age of them because
Yeah.
they're usually f***ing terrible.
they're
Haven't
so
done
hit or
it
miss.
good.
They
Keep trying
yeah.
real hard.
I think they haven't like cracked the code yet though, because remember like we were getting like all these garbage superhero movies, and then we got like Spider-Man,
Yes.
and we were like, okay,
Right.
and we got
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2, and we're like, all right, and then we got X-Men 1, and then
Right.
X-Men 2, and it was like suddenly people realized how to do that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and instead you have sort of these like half successes, half failures, because like Resident Evil is obviously a giant franchise that's made a ton of money, but then you have these other movies like Street Fighter that just like f***ing bombed.
Yeah.
Because
And they did twice.
The Legend of Chun-Li, though, was just an adventure to watch.
Oh yeah,
It really is.
I
Look,
saw
Chris
in the
Klein
theater.
is having the most fun.
Yeah.
He was on vacation.
Yeah.
I
during
believe
that
they put
movie.
his hair in a fryer before it came out. Did
don't
you
know
see
what it
how
was.
messed up and greasy?
It was awful.
It was great. I saw it in the theater. Yeah, paid money to see it in the theater.
I
Totally
would have
fine.
been surprised if you hadn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good.
You also
fair
watched
point.
all those Barbie TV shows.
Well, not all of them, or any of them. I plead the fifth. I don't want to talk about it.
you can stop anytime.
It's true.
I think a key distinction, though, is video games, to an extent, have a story. Toys don't necessarily have a story, just sort of a premise or a concept, whereas comic books, there is a story, and you
Yeah.
can easily adapt it to a movie. So I think that's why they've lent themselves to what they've become, and they've turned out a lot better as time has gone on. But with toys, it's kind of, you're just working off a prop, essentially, and
Right.
trying to imagine a story around it.
Yeah, it's like, why are these hippos so hungry? I don't know. Famine. They just are too lazy to go to the store.
Yeah.
They don't have any money because of a terrible economy. I don't know.
Revenge.
Yeah,
Revenge, maybe.
Well, I mean, Battleship actually worked. I mean, it made
No,
a profit.
no, it didn't.
As a money-making thing.
As a business
it
venture,
worked. Yeah.
it worked.
As an actual movie, no, it didn't.
Considering the success of 50 Shades of Grey, I think we can no longer use money as a measure of a movie's success.
Oh, we've never
yeah.
been able to.
Yeah.
Because then Avatar is the best movie ever
Right,
made of all time.
exactly.
Well, I also think the big difference, and this is going to sound a little weird, but I feel like every person alive today, even the really old people, like comic books have existed as a medium. So they might be more willing, but video games are still in a way relatively new. I mean, when you think about the Ataris, didn't really come out until the 70s. So I think that there is something to be said about they're going to keep on trying and it's going to click, and I think it's probably going to be Assassin's Creed. I mean, Fassbender's huge right now. They got a good director. Splinter Cell will be coming out soon with Tom Hardy, who's getting bigger and bigger.
Well, and that's the thing, too, because I think video games have been at a kind of a turning point over the last, 6 or 8 years, probably. In terms of, like, the video games themselves are pretty much movies. And so at that point, like, there's such a wealth of, of content to pull from for each video game. Like, the new challenge has sort of become, like, how do you sort of condense all that into a 2-hour movie? Or, like, what parts of it are worth making the movie about.
Uncharted, if they ever actually make Uncharted, will be really good.
That's like Indiana
I mean, that's the
Jones.
one that's like a
Indiana Jones,
layup because like all the characters are there, the world is there. You don't have to use the previous story, and you probably shouldn't because people have already sat through that. And it's just done. There's like your next Indiana Jones without having to be Indiana Jones.
Definitely. I mean, it really just comes down to casting. I mean, there's a reason they offered it to Chris Pratt, who of course declined.
Sure.
And thank God they're not doing the weird Mark Wahlberg antiquing thing they were going to do with David O. Russell a few years ago.
Art dealers.
That scared me so much. You have no idea. I was waking up in like sweats. So I was like, no,
Panicky cold sweat.
this is a terrible idea. So very glad that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But as far as like what's going to happen after the age of the comic book movie, I mean, I don't really think comic book movies are going anywhere anytime soon. I think what's going to happen is franchises will have to reboot every decade or so, and other opportunities will be found with more obscure comics, like with Kingsman, for example. I mean, we're already seeing them kind of doing a deeper dork dive and finding weirder things.
I mean, that was
to
actually
adapt.
developed at the same time as the comic.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. See, well, there you go. Synergy.
Good work, guys.
I've been talking about this. I'm sure I've said on CineFix and doing our stuff here, but I do truly believe that the age of the big anime movie will come, where it will be the new comic book will be anime. They've been working on it for a long time. There haven't been a ton of anime movies that have come out in America. There's been a lot of bombs, Speed Racer, Dragon Ball Evolution, but I think Ghost in the Shell is going to be the real test because they got she's huge, Scarlett's huge, and they're putting a lot of money in it, and I think that there are so many anime fans out there that I think it's going to happen. I think Attack on Titan would be an amazing film series. I mean, that's the thing. When I went to see the third Hobbit, all I could think of was like Peter Jackson has to make an Attack on Titan movie because there were sequences that felt like Attack on Titan.
I honestly think we'll probably see, if we're talking about like these big overarching sort of events in Hollywood, we'll see anime movies before video game movies. Because those are already sort of in the business of a visual medium, and they will be more open to partnering and bringing that to a larger screen than people who make video games, like these giant publishers, which is exactly what happened with Halo and Microsoft, is that Microsoft went out and started swinging its dick around, and nobody was like, that's not worth sucking. And that's why we don't have a Halo movie.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I think about anime is narratively, there's so much more to pull from there too. Like video games are, they've got the visuals down because they're doing some really interesting stuff with video games now. But a lot of times they don't have that depth of character, and so you got all this anime stuff to pull from that dates back, however many years. Dragon Ball's got, 20 years worth of stuff under its belt at this point?
Yeah, it's been around since the late 80s.
I mean, and it's about just finding that one bit of that narratively and thematically and all that makes an interesting movie and just like focusing on that. Like, don't try to bring everything into one movie.
Yeah, I mean, the Japanese film market for decades hasn't had as much money as like America, so they've spent a lot of time and effort on anime, making anime, both TV and movies, very good. And so there's this, anime is like, a giant genre with every genre. I mean, there's slice of life. I mean, one of my favorite animes is a high school basketball team. And there's no robots, there's no aliens, there's nothing sci-fi at all. is literally a basketball team, and it's hilarious and it's awesome and it's captivating, and yeah, I mean, it is just ripe for that kind of excitement to be put on American screens.
Well, and how much of it has to do with, and for any subgenre, if for board games, for anime, for video games, whatever it is, how much of it is like people having to take it seriously and treat it seriously?
I think taking it seriously has a lot more to do with the power of fans on the internet. You know, whenever you take a pre-existing property that has its own audience, if you don't treat it respectfully, those nerds are going to get you.
Yeah.
And they're going to destroy you before you're even in the water. I mean, they had to kind of backpedal on the whole Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as aliens concept because of the internet. You know, they were like, F this and F you.
Well, there was that montage, like right in the most awkward place of the movie that explained who they were, and it's like, oh, I bet this is where the alien stuff was originally.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's really where the whole we have to treat this seriously thing comes from. And I do think to a certain extent it can potentially take the fun out of things. You know, like everything has to be the Batman Begins of
Right.
whatever. It has to be dark and gritty, and it just gets kind of exhausting.
Which again is what's been so impressive about Marvel is like
Yeah.
they've treated it like with weight without like going all the way to
Without being Debbie Downers about
exactly
everything.
exactly.
Well, it's funny because I feel like, and I know we've brought up Speed Racer before and talked about it. I personally love Speed
Three
Racer.
beers in, I loved
and-
Speed
and-
Racer,
yeah,
and then I sobered up a little and I got tired of it.
But I think the Wachowskis actually treated it very seriously because I think what they were going for was the feeling of the anime, and I feel like they did succeed overall in it. But I also feel like people weren't ready for it, and I also feel like they didn't know how to market it at all. Those trailers did not represent what the movie was.
Well, and it was a weird movie too.
It was very
like
weird,
a movie like that is interesting, and we need more of them in a lot of ways. But like for a movie that weird to find a huge audience would have been a surprise.
I think the main thing in terms of at least the studio's perspective is franchisability. It seems like the studios aren't interested in anything where they can't make at least 3 of them anymore.
Yeah.
The only time you're going to get a one-off movie is if it's an Oscar movie. you know, and
Yeah.
those are coming from the smaller studios and then just getting distribution deals anyway. So yeah, I think, you know, obviously young adult is another huge area, and I don't know if there will be a young adult age. Maybe we're already sort of in it with
think we're
these.
already in
I
it.
think we're getting
Yeah.
past it too. Frankly.
Yeah, I mean, between Hunger Games and these urgent, whatever it is.
Yeah,
Divergent, yeah.
Divergent, whatever.
Maze Runner.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're running out of the YA books that were
Yeah.
like hugely popular.
Right. I'm just hoping that they don't get desperate and start doing like fan fiction age because of the success of
50
50
Shades
Is that what
Right,
50
yeah.
Shades? Yeah. I'm really excited to see when they start doing more like movies based on like real weird stuff like memes. You know, like we already had
God.
that.
Said
we already
Keanu,
had
the movie.
The cat. Yeah. Well, we already had Grumpy Cat the movie, right? Lifetime made one. That's just the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see
Well,
more of that weird stuff going on.
I think we'll gradually transition into just big studios producing GIFs.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
it. It's going to be like a studio
in
that specializes in
4K
vines.
IMAX.
Yeah, 4K IMAX GIFs that we
See
all
this
go.
GIF projected in lasers.
We pay $17 to sit in front of it for 8 minutes. Like, yeah,
Worth
yeah, no,
it.
that's
Yeah.
seamless. Look at
Good
that.
use of the impact font.
Totally. I hate Mondays too.
Now, what is interesting though, and we had this conversation actually off camera, but we were talking about how Netflix is investing a lot of old cartoons from our childhood coming back. You know, Inspector Gadget they already made, that's
Yeah.
coming out. They're investing in, what is
Gem
it?
and the Misfits.
Danger Mouse.
Gem is
Yeah.
live
It's gonna
be a
action.
movie.
That's a movie.
Gem's a
Yeah,
live
that's
action
a
movie.
proper movie.
Danger Mouse cartoon. Is there any like cartoons like that you guys like would like to see? Like, I know for me, I was such a huge fan of Darkwing Duck as a kid.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love to see that come back.
Yeah, I loved almost all those Disney like cartoons, like Darkwing Duck, Tailspin. There were some other ones too.
Chip and
Rescue
Dale,
Rangers.
Rescue Rangers.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah,
yeah.
all those would be awesome.
Oh my God! Somebody put up like
Yeah, would those come? You'd come back as like Alvin and the Chipmunks, kind of like live action CG hybrid, or just
No, you're
full
talking
on
about gritty
cartoon.
reboots, like
Yeah.
the Snorks.
the Snork.
Yeah, exactly.
Like where they're living in toxic
Snork's origin
water,
story?
and it's just like snork orgies.
I just if we don't do it like live action CGI hybrid, at least then there's no room for Jai Courtney.
Ah,
He can't- he
would
fair
voice
enough.
one of them.
Fair
He
enough.
could voice 2 or 3 of them.
He would
Actually,
he would voice the whitest of them.
he would voice. He
But-
would voice
but
the most
strongest
plain of the
them?
Storks.
The toughest of them. Going back to Darkwing Duck real quick, because I don't know why I'm fascinated
No,
by
please
that. You could easily, kind of parody the fact that we have been in this comic book thing forever. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a geek, I love comic books, but really, we know up to 2020. I mean, 2020 is going to be Cyborg and Green Lantern. That's 5 years from now, and Infinity War Part 2 is 2019. So like this ain't ending. Right. So I think that could be interesting to sort of parody a lot of the same common tropes that we always see. Having Darkwing Duck in a new way.
Well, and I think we're going to have to transition into getting some of that. I think we're going to get some of that with the Deadpool movie also.
Oh yeah.
So that'll be fun.
That's
like at some point it's like, guys, what are we doing here? And that's why the Kingsman was fun too, because it was like half a spoof. It wasn't like all the way spoof, but it was like.
It was really just the perfect tone.
I'm really pulling for Mask. I don't know if you guys remember Mask, but Mask was like, it was exactly halfway between G.I. Joes and Transformers. Like, because it was like dudes that were in cars that like also were helicopters. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great. And they might be the villains in G.I. Joe 3 apparently.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Spectacular rumor.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they should bring back, and Lacey and I have talked about this, is street sharks.
Oh my God, street sharks.
The sharks that actually swim through the pavement of the streets. Yeah.
They're the worst.
It was so obviously a ripoff of Ninja Turtles, just unapologetically.
But with more property damage.
Right.
They cause so much more damage than they ever protect. It is the best.
But think about all those jobs they're creating and the people repaving the streets like every day.
Yeah. It's a good point. It's sort of like the New Deal.
It would ruin the economy.
Exactly.
There'd be no way to get to work. The streets would always be torn up.
That's also fair. Yeah, it's
also fair.
You're looking at a city in crisis.
That then encourages the innovation of floating cars, of flying cars.
I'm not even
which
sure.
We're totally due for flying
But then
cars.
crime takes to the skies, and what do the street sharks have to do?
That's also fair. This is a very circular argument.
I watched a bunch of those. I'm not even sure they stopped crime. I think they literally just messed up pavement and like hit on chicks, and the chicks were oddly really receptive to it. And like really wanted to hook up with the street sharks.
With these weird monsters.
Yeah, it is the most bizarre. It's not okay for kids to watch. You watch it now, it was a bizarre freak show that nobody monitored, by the way. Everyone was so worried about video games in the 90s that they didn't even look towards street sharks. Yeah, it's wrong. It's real wrong. Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
It's good. Yeah, you should watch it. The best part about Street Sharks is, okay, so they're not even like Ninja Turtles, right? They're dudes who became shark dudes, okay?
They're just bros who turned into sharks.
This is another one of those shows where they explain the entire origin story.
Right, in the 4.5-minute title sequence.
Okay, they're four bros, they get kidnapped by mad scientists, turned into shark dudes. For about 15 seconds, they're horrified that they're shark men. Their lives are changed and ruined forever because they're freaks. 30 seconds later, awesome!
Yeah,
and they slap hands.
Yeah,
Totally okay
honestly,
with it.
if there's a big life change like that, the biggest hurdle is figuring out the best pun to use about it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
like once you get past that, I'm sure they were fine.
I mean, it was really, really rapid 9 stages of grief.
Just
We're
moved
good.
right to acceptance.
Yeah,
We're literally still in the lab where this happened to us. Maybe we hang out for a little bit and think about it.
It's a freaking national treasure. I mean, the next Nicolas Cage movie should be him finding the original copy of Street Sharks. It's that
National
I love
Treasure
that.
3. All right, well, let us know what age of movies you want to see next. Is it more comic book stuff, more anime stuff, more board game stuff? We talked about more Jai Courtney stuff. If we could, I think we are in the age of Jai Courtney.
I'm gonna go write some Jai Courtney /fiction. Turn it into a game.
Turn it into a game and then done. That's all. And then you're gonna get
Just sit back and collect my royalty checks.
And then you get to have a shingle at Warner Brothers or something. All right, well, let us know what you think about all that in the comments down below. Click like and subscribe, and come back next time for more of all of this stuff here on CineFix. See you later. We gotta go.